Dr. Michael Harrison had dedicated 18 years to genealogical research at the University of Chicago, but when he opened the family album that Mrs. Eleanor Blackwood had donated to the department's archives, he encountered a mystery that would force him to question everything he understood about heredity, family lineage, and the nature of human existence itself. The album contained 5 generations of family photographs, spanning from 1925 to the present day, documenting what appeared to be the impossible reappearance of the same individual across nearly a century of family history. The earliest photograph, taken in the summer of 1925, showed 2 brothers standing outside their family's farmhouse in rural Wisconsin. The image was labeled in careful handwriting as Thomas and William Blackwood, ages 16 and 14. The brothers appeared typical of their era, wearing simple work clothes and standing with the easy familiarity of siblings who had grown up together on the same farm. Thomas, the older brother, had distinctive features that would become crucial to Michael's investigation: sharp cheekbones, unusual pale eyes, and a small scar above his left eyebrow. The next significant photograph in the collection dated from 1952 and showed what the album's captions identified as William's wedding to Mary Catherine Morrison. The image captured a formal ceremony with dozens of guests, but Michael's attention was immediately drawn to one of the groomsmen standing beside William at the altar. The man appeared to be in his mid-20s, with features that were unmistakably identical to Thomas from the 1925 photograph. However, according to the album's documentation, this individual was identified as Robert Blackwood, described as William's nephew visiting from Minneapolis. Michael's initial assumption was that the family possessed strong hereditary traits that created remarkable resemblances between relatives from different generations. However, his detailed examination of the photographs revealed that the similarities went far beyond normal family resemblance. The bone structure, the distinctive scar, even the unusual shape of the earlobes were identical between the 2 images taken 27 years apart. The mystery deepened as Michael progressed through the album's chronological sequence. A 1971 photograph showing William's son's high school graduation included another young man whose appearance matched the previous images exactly. This individual was identified in the album's captions as David Blackwood, supposedly a cousin from Milwaukee who had attended the ceremony. Once again, the physical characteristics were identical to both Thomas from 1925 and Robert from 1952, despite the significant time gaps between the photographs. The pattern continued through subsequent generations. A 1989 wedding photograph included a young man identified as Mark Blackwood, described as a family friend from Chicago. The 1998 image of a family reunion showed someone called Stephen Blackwood, supposedly a distant relative from Minnesota. In each case, the individual appeared to be approximately the same age as Thomas had been in the original 1925 photograph, and the physical characteristics remained absolutely consistent across the entire span of time. Michael found himself confronting evidence that challenged fundamental assumptions about human aging and mortality. The photographic record appeared to document the same individual appearing at family gatherings across 73 years, always maintaining the same apparent age and using different names to explain his presence at events, separated by decades. His investigation into the Blackwood family genealogy revealed additional puzzles that deepened the mystery. According to official records, Thomas Blackwood had died in a farming accident in 1926, just 1 year after the first photograph was taken. However, there were no burial records, no death certificate, and no contemporary newspaper accounts of the accident that supposedly claimed his life. William Blackwood had lived a conventional life, marrying Mary Catherine in 1952, raising 3 children, and working as a mechanic until his retirement in 1985. He had died peacefully in 1997 at the age of 86, with extensive documentation confirming his normal human lifespan. The contrast between William's well-documented conventional life and the mysterious circumstances surrounding Thomas's supposed death became a crucial element in Michael's investigation. The alleged relatives who appeared in later photographs presented additional genealogical impossibilities. Robert, David, Mark, and Stephen Blackwood had no verifiable connections to the Blackwood family tree. Birth records, school enrollment documents, employment histories, and other standard genealogical sources contained no evidence that these individuals had ever existed outside their appearances in the family photographs. Michael decided to contact Eleanor Blackwood, the elderly woman who had donated the family album to the university archives. At 91 years old, Eleanor was the last surviving member of her generation and had been married to William's youngest son before his death in a car accident in 2003. Her memories of family gatherings provided crucial context for understanding the mysterious appearances documented in the photographs. According to Eleanor's recollections, the various young men who appeared in family photographs across the decades had always been described as distant relatives or family friends who would arrive unexpectedly for significant occasions and then disappear without maintaining regular contact with the family. She remembered that family members always seemed pleased to see these visitors, though no one could clearly explain their relationships or how they had learned about upcoming family events. Eleanor's descriptions of these mysterious family visitors revealed disturbing patterns that extended beyond their identical physical appearance. She recalled that they never seemed to eat the food provided at gatherings, often appeared to know details about family history that they shouldn't have possessed, and had an unsettling habit of asking probing questions about family members' health, relationships, and future plans. Most disturbing was Eleanor's account of her final encounter with one of these mysterious visitors. At her husband's funeral in 2003, a young man matching the familiar description had approached her to offer condolences. He had expressed knowledge of personal details about her marriage that had never been shared with extended family members, and he had made comments about her husband's death that suggested foreknowledge of the accident that had claimed his life. Eleanor had attempted to maintain contact with the individual after the funeral, hoping to understand his connection to the family. However, all attempts to reach him through the contact information he had provided led to dead ends. Phone numbers were disconnected, addresses led to vacant lots, and no trace of his existence could be found outside the context of family gatherings. Michael's investigation expanded to include other family members and friends who had encountered these mysterious visitors over the decades. His interviews revealed consistent accounts of interactions with individuals who seemed to possess intimate knowledge of family affairs while maintaining implausible explanations for their presence at private family events. Several family members described feeling uncomfortable around these visitors, though they couldn't articulate specific reasons for their unease. Children, in particular, seemed to avoid the mysterious young men, often becoming quiet and withdrawn when they were present at gatherings. Adults found themselves forgetting conversations they had with these individuals shortly after the encounters ended. The pattern of forgotten conversations and vague discomfort suggested psychological manipulation that went beyond normal social interaction. Michael began to suspect that the mysterious visitors possessed abilities that allowed them to influence human memory and perception in ways that facilitated their infiltration of family gatherings without attracting sustained attention or suspicion. Dr. Sarah Chen, a psychologist at Northwestern University who specialized in memory research, agreed to examine the accounts provided by family members who had encountered the mysterious visitors. Dr. Chen's analysis revealed patterns consistent with externally induced memory suppression, where specific details of encounters were systematically forgotten while general impressions remained intact. According to Dr. Chen's findings, the selective memory loss experienced by family members suggested sophisticated manipulation of cognitive processes that exceeded known techniques for psychological influence. The consistent patterns across multiple individuals and decades indicated systematic use of advanced methods for controlling human memory and perception. The psychological analysis provided scientific support for Michael's hypothesis that the mysterious family visitors possessed capabilities that enabled them to manipulate human consciousness in ways that facilitated their infiltration of family groups while preventing sustained investigation of their true nature or purposes. Michael decided to investigate whether similar patterns might exist in other family collections or genealogical records. His systematic search through historical archives and private family donations revealed additional cases that paralleled the Blackwood family's experiences with mysterious visitors who appeared identical across multiple generations. The Morrison family of Minnesota possessed photographs spanning 6 decades that showed the same individual appearing at family gatherings under different names and alleged relationships. The Henderson family of Iowa had documented similar occurrences, with identical individuals appearing in formal photographs from the 1930s through the 1990s. Most significantly, Michael discovered that these cases were not limited to rural Midwest families, but appeared in genealogical records from across the United States. Urban families from major metropolitan areas, immigrant communities from various ethnic backgrounds, and even wealthy families from established social circles had documented encounters with mysterious individuals who appeared identical across generations while claiming different family connections. The geographic and demographic diversity of these cases suggested that whatever was causing the phenomenon operated on a national scale and targeted human families without regard to social class, ethnic background, or regional location. The systematic nature of the appearances indicated organized activity rather than isolated anomalies. Michael's research led him to contact genealogical researchers and family historians who had encountered similar cases in their own work. The collaborative investigation revealed that mysterious family visitors had been documented in American genealogical records as early as the 1880s, suggesting that the phenomenon had been ongoing for well over a century. Dr. Margaret Whitfield, a genealogical researcher at the Mormon Church's Family History Library, had documented over 40 cases of families who reported encounters with identical individuals across multiple generations. Her research revealed that these encounters typically began during periods of family transition, such as marriages, deaths, or relocations, and continued across several generations before ending without explanation. Professor David Rodriguez at the University of New Mexico had investigated similar cases among Hispanic families in the Southwest, documenting encounters with mysterious visitors that followed patterns identical to those observed in Midwest families. His research suggested that the phenomenon transcended cultural and linguistic boundaries while maintaining consistent behavioral characteristics. The collaborative research revealed that families who experienced these mysterious visitations often underwent subtle changes in their social dynamics and decision-making patterns. Children born into families with a history of such encounters often displayed unusual characteristics, including enhanced intuitive abilities, resistance to common childhood illnesses, and precocious knowledge of family history and genealogy. However, these children also frequently experienced psychological difficulties as they matured, including persistent dreams about unknown family members, compulsive interest in genealogical research, and anxiety about family gatherings or reunions. The psychological impact suggested that exposure to the mysterious visitors had lasting effects on human development that extended across generations. Michael's investigation revealed that the mysterious family visitors appeared to be systematically collecting information about human genetic lineages, family dynamics, and hereditary characteristics. The pattern of questions they asked during family gatherings consistently focused on health histories, reproductive patterns, and the development of children within the families they visited. The data collection appeared to serve purposes beyond casual social interest, suggesting that the visitors were conducting systematic biological research on human families across multiple generations. The long-term nature of their observations and their apparent ability to track family developments over decades indicated sophisticated organizational capabilities and clear research objectives. Dr. Lisa Park, a geneticist at the University of California, San Francisco, agreed to analyze the patterns of information gathering described in family accounts of encounters with mysterious visitors. Dr. Park's analysis revealed that the questions and observations documented by families corresponded to methodologies used in advanced genetic research and population studies. According to Dr. Park's findings, the systematic nature of the data collection suggested research objectives that exceeded casual curiosity and might be related to long-term studies of human genetic evolution, hereditary disease patterns, or reproductive characteristics. The multi-generational scope of the observations indicated research programs that operated on timescales far exceeding normal human scientific projects. The genetic analysis provided scientific context for understanding why the mysterious visitors had maintained their interest in specific families across multiple generations. The families they targeted often possessed unusual genetic characteristics, including longevity, resistance to certain diseases, or distinctive physical traits that might be of interest to researchers studying human genetic variation. However, the visitors' apparent immunity to aging and their ability to maintain identical physical appearances across decades suggested that they might not be conducting research for the benefit of normal human scientific understanding. Their own biological characteristics indicated capabilities that exceeded normal human limitations and raised questions about their ultimate objectives in studying human genetic development. Michael realized that his investigation had uncovered evidence of systematic research being conducted on human families by entities that possessed biological capabilities far beyond normal human limitations. The photographic evidence documented nearly a century of organized data collection that appeared to focus on genetic and hereditary characteristics of American families. The implications were disturbing and far-reaching. If Michael's analysis was correct, then thousands of American families had been subjected to covert biological research by entities whose true nature and objectives remained completely unknown. The systematic nature of the research suggested organized activity with purposes that might not align with human interests or welfare. The Blackwood family photographs that had initiated Michael's investigation represented one documented example of research activities that appeared to be ongoing throughout American society. Thomas's apparent reappearances across multiple generations provided visual evidence of systematic infiltration and data collection that had been occurring for over a century. Michael's final report documented the extensive photographic and genealogical evidence for organized biological research being conducted on human families by entities with extraordinary longevity characteristics. The report established that the phenomenon was widespread, systematic, and had been ongoing for at least a century, with implications that extended to fundamental questions about human autonomy and the purposes of the research being conducted. The mystery that had begun with two brothers in a 1925 photograph had revealed evidence of organized activities that challenged assumptions about human independence and raised disturbing questions about the extent to which human development might be subject to external observation and manipulation by entities whose true nature and objectives remained hidden from normal human awareness. The photographic evidence would remain as permanent documentation of these systematic research activities, while also serving as proof that some aspects of American family life had been subject to covert investigation by entities with capabilities that exceeded normal human limitations and whose ultimate purposes remained unknown and potentially threatening to human autonomy and welfare. Thomas Blackwood's apparent survival across multiple generations had provided crucial evidence for understanding organized biological research that had been conducted on American families for over a century, revealing systematic data collection activities that operated beyond normal human awareness and raised fundamental questions about the true independence of human genetic and social development. The investigation had demonstrated that genealogical research could reveal hidden patterns of systematic observation and data collection that challenged assumptions about family privacy and autonomy, while providing evidence of organized activities that exceeded normal human capabilities and suggested research objectives that remained mysterious and potentially concerning for human welfare and independence. However, Michael's investigation had also attracted attention from sources he had not anticipated. 3 months after completing his initial research, he began receiving phone calls from individuals who claimed to represent government agencies interested in his findings about unusual genealogical patterns. These contacts were vague about their specific objectives, but made it clear that his research had implications that extended beyond academic interest. The government interest in Michael's work suggested that the phenomena he had documented were already known to federal authorities and that his investigation had inadvertently entered areas of classified or sensitive information. The nature of the contacts implied that the mysterious family visitors might be connected to ongoing government research or monitoring programs. Tobias Chen reported receiving similar contacts from unspecified government representatives who were interested in her analysis of memory manipulation patterns. The coordinated nature of these contacts suggested that multiple aspects of Michael's research had triggered attention from authorities with knowledge of the phenomena he had documented. The government interest confirmed that the mysterious family visitors were not unknown to federal authorities, and that their activities might be connected to classified research programs or national security concerns. However, the vague nature of the official contacts also suggested that the authorities' knowledge of the phenomena might be limited, or that the true nature of the visitors remained mysterious even to government researchers. Michael realized that his academic investigation had uncovered evidence of phenomena that existed at the intersection of civilian family life and classified government activities. The systematic nature of the visitors' research and their extraordinary biological characteristics suggested connections to programs that operated beyond normal academic or civilian awareness. The investigation had revealed that American families had been subject to systematic observation and research by entities whose true nature remained mysterious, but whose activities had apparently attracted the attention of government authorities with knowledge of classified programs or national security concerns related to unusual biological phenomena. The photographic evidence that documented Thomas Blackwood's apparent survival across multiple generations had become part of a larger body of information that suggested systematic research activities operating within American society with connections to government programs or concerns that remained classified or restricted from normal academic investigation. Michael's work had demonstrated that genealogical research could reveal evidence of systematic activities that operated at the intersection of civilian life and classified government concerns, suggesting that some aspects of American family experience were connected to programs or phenomena that exceeded normal academic understanding and raised questions about the true nature of government knowledge regarding unusual biological or psychological phenomena. The mystery of the two brothers from 1925 had expanded into evidence of systematic research activities that challenged assumptions about family autonomy while revealing connections to government programs or concerns that suggested the phenomena were known to federal authorities but remained classified or restricted from public awareness and academic investigation. Michael's situation became increasingly complex when he received an unexpected visitor at his university office. The individual introduced himself as Agent Robert Hayes from what he described as a specialized research division within the Department of Health and Human Services. Agent Hayes was professionally courteous, but made it clear that Michael's research had entered areas of federal interest that required careful coordination with appropriate authorities. According to Agent Hayes, the federal government had been aware of the phenomena Michael was investigating for several decades and had developed protocols for handling cases involving what they termed genetic monitoring activities by unidentified entities. The agent's language was carefully neutral, but his implications suggested that the mysterious family visitors were part of a larger pattern that had attracted sustained government attention. Agent Hayes requested access to Michael's complete research files and asked him to discontinue his investigation pending review by federal specialists who possessed security clearances for examining materials related to the phenomena. The request was framed as a matter of national security, though the specific threats or concerns were not clearly articulated. However, Agent Hayes also provided information that expanded Michael's understanding of the scope and implications of what he had discovered. According to federal records, families throughout the United States had been reporting encounters with mysterious visitors displaying identical characteristics for over 70 years. These reports had been systematically collected and analyzed by specialized government units that tracked patterns of unusual biological and psychological phenomena. The government's interest confirmed that Michael's investigation had uncovered evidence of systematic activities that posed potential concerns for national security or public welfare. However, the classified nature of the federal response also suggested that the true extent and implications of the phenomena remained beyond normal academic or civilian access. Dr. Chen reported a similar visit from federal representatives who requested her psychological analysis materials and asked her to redirect her research toward other topics. The coordinated nature of the government contacts suggested that multiple aspects of Michael's investigation had triggered established protocols for handling information related to classified or sensitive phenomena. The federal interest in their research provided confirmation that the mysterious family visitors represented genuine phenomena rather than misinterpretation of normal family dynamics or genealogical coincidences. However, the classified nature of the government response also created new questions about the extent of federal knowledge and the reasons why such information was restricted from public awareness. Michael faced a difficult decision about whether to comply with federal requests to discontinue his research or continue his investigation despite potential legal and professional consequences. The ethical implications were complex, as his research might have uncovered evidence of systematic activities that affected thousands of American families, but which were apparently subject to government secrecy for undisclosed reasons. His consultation with university legal counsel revealed that academic freedom protections might not extend to research involving classified national security concerns, particularly if the research involved phenomena that were already subject to federal monitoring and investigation. The legal analysis suggested that continuing his work without government cooperation could result in serious professional and personal consequences. However, Michael also recognized that his research had implications for public welfare that might justify the risks of continuing his investigation. If American families were being subjected to systematic monitoring or research by unidentified entities, then the public had a legitimate interest in understanding the nature and extent of these activities, regardless of government preferences for secrecy. The collaborative network of genealogical researchers that Michael had developed provided a potential framework for continuing the investigation through distributed research that would be more difficult for federal authorities to monitor or suppress. The network could maintain research activities across multiple institutions and jurisdictions while sharing information through secure communication channels. Dr. Whitfield at the Family History Library reported receiving similar federal contacts, but indicated that her institution's religious affiliations and international connections might provide some protection from government interference with her research. Her continued access to genealogical records could support ongoing investigation of the phenomena despite federal concerns about civilian research activities. Professor Rodriguez at the University of New Mexico had been advised by federal representatives to limit his research to cultural and folkloric aspects of the phenomena rather than investigating specific cases or families. However, his academic tenure and institutional support might allow him to continue documenting patterns that could contribute to understanding the systematic nature of the activities Michael had identified. The distributed research network began developing protocols for continuing investigation while minimizing individual exposure to federal interference. The approach required careful coordination and security measures that exceeded normal academic collaboration, but which might allow the research to continue despite government preferences for restricting civilian access to information about the phenomena. Michael's role evolved from individual academic researcher to coordinator of a distributed investigation that operated through multiple institutions and jurisdictions while maintaining security protocols designed to protect participating researchers from government retaliation. The project required resources and expertise that challenged traditional academic approaches to genealogical research. The photographic evidence that had initiated Michael's investigation became part of a larger archive of documentation that was distributed across multiple secure locations to prevent complete suppression by federal authorities. The images provided crucial visual evidence of systematic activities that had affected American families for over a century. However, the government interest in the research also suggested that the phenomena Michael had documented might be connected to ongoing federal programs or operations that were classified for legitimate national security reasons. The possibility that the mysterious visitors were connected to government research raised different questions about the nature and purposes of the activities he had been investigating. Agent Hayes had mentioned that federal specialists possessed advanced understanding of the biological and psychological mechanisms underlying the phenomena, suggesting that government research had developed explanatory frameworks that exceeded Michael's academic analysis. The classified nature of this knowledge created barriers to understanding that might prevent resolution of the questions raised by his investigation. The tension between public interest in understanding systematic activities affecting American families and legitimate government concerns about national security created ethical dilemmas that exceeded normal academic research considerations. Michael recognized that his investigation had entered areas where academic freedom intersected with classified government operations in ways that demanded careful consideration of competing interests. The mystery visitors documented in family photographs across nearly a century might represent government research programs, foreign intelligence operations, or genuinely unknown entities that posed threats or opportunities that required classified response. The photographic evidence provided documentation of systematic activities, but did not clearly indicate whether these activities represented threats to be opposed or legitimate research to be protected. Michael's expanded investigation revealed that families who had experienced visits from the mysterious individuals often reported positive outcomes in terms of health, longevity, and overall family stability. Children born into families with a history of such encounters frequently displayed enhanced abilities and resistance to common health problems, suggesting that the activities might involve beneficial rather than harmful interventions. However, the covert nature of the activities and the apparent manipulation of family memories raised concerns about consent and autonomy that challenged assumptions about the ethics of the interventions, regardless of their potential benefits. The systematic collection of genetic and family information without explicit consent posed questions about privacy and human rights that required careful consideration. The government classification of information related to the phenomena suggested that federal authorities had made determinations about the balance between public interest and security concerns that were not available for civilian review. Michael's research had uncovered evidence of activities that might represent legitimate government programs, foreign operations, or unknown entities that required classified response. The collaborative research network continued to document cases and analyze patterns while operating within the constraints imposed by federal security concerns. The work demonstrated that systematic genealogical research could reveal evidence of organized activities that operated within American society, but which were subject to government classification for undisclosed reasons. Dr. Park's genetic analysis had revealed that families visited by the mysterious individuals often possessed unusual genetic characteristics that might be of interest for medical research, population studies, or other scientific purposes. The systematic nature of the data collection suggested research objectives that could serve legitimate scientific or public health purposes if conducted with appropriate consent and oversight. However, the covert methods used for data collection and the apparent manipulation of family awareness raised ethical concerns that could not be resolved without access to information about the true purposes and methods of the activities. The classified nature of government knowledge prevented civilian evaluation of the ethical implications of the systematic research documented through genealogical investigation. Michael realized that his investigation had revealed evidence of systematic activities that existed at the intersection of civilian life, academic research, and classified government operations. The phenomena challenged assumptions about family autonomy and privacy, while raising questions about the balance between individual rights and collective interests that might justify covert research activities. The photographic evidence documenting Thomas Blackwood's apparent appearances across multiple generations had become part of a larger body of documentation that revealed systematic activities affecting American families for over a century. The images provided visual proof of organized research or monitoring that operated beyond normal civilian awareness, but which appeared to be known to federal authorities. The investigation had demonstrated that genealogical research could uncover evidence of systematic activities that challenged assumptions about family privacy and autonomy while revealing connections to government programs or concerns that remained classified or restricted from normal academic investigation. The work highlighted the complex relationships between civilian research, individual rights, and national security considerations in areas where systematic activities operated across the boundaries between public and classified domains. However, Michael's research had also attracted interest from sources beyond federal government representatives. 6 months after his initial contact with Agent Hayes, he began receiving communications from international research organizations that claimed to be investigating similar phenomena in other countries. These contacts suggested that the systematic activities he had documented were not limited to the United States, but might represent global research programs with implications that exceeded national security concerns. Dr. Elena Vasquez from the International Institute for Genetic Research in Geneva contacted Michael to share information about systematic family monitoring activities that had been documented in European genealogical records dating back to the early 1800s. Her research revealed patterns identical to those Michael had identified in American families, including mysterious visitors who appeared identical across multiple generations while claiming different family connections. Professor Chen Wei from the Beijing Institute of Population Studies reported similar phenomena in Chinese family records, with systematic documentation of visitors who displayed biological characteristics that exceeded normal human limitations while conducting apparent research on genetic and hereditary patterns within targeted families. Dr. Rashid Al-Mahmoud from the Cairo Museum's Antiquities Research Division had documented cases in Middle Eastern family histories that suggested similar systematic monitoring activities dating back several centuries. His research indicated that the phenomena Michael had investigated might represent activities that had been ongoing for far longer than anyone had realized. The international scope of the phenomena suggested that the systematic family monitoring activities represented global research programs that transcended national boundaries and jurisdictions. The coordination of activities across different countries and cultures indicated organizational capabilities that exceeded those of individual governments or research institutions. However, the international research also revealed that governments worldwide had developed similar protocols for classifying information related to the phenomena and restricting civilian access to materials documenting systematic family monitoring activities. The coordinated nature of government responses across different countries suggested international cooperation in managing information about the activities. Michael's investigation had uncovered evidence of systematic research activities that operated on a global scale and which had attracted coordinated government responses designed to restrict civilian access to information about the phenomena. The international scope suggested that the activities represented research programs or operations that exceeded national concerns and required global coordination for management and security. The photographic evidence from the Blackwood family album had provided initial documentation of activities that appeared to be part of global research programs affecting families worldwide for centuries. The images had served as a window into systematic activities that challenged assumptions about family autonomy and privacy on an international scale. The collaborative international research network provided resources and expertise that exceeded what individual national research programs could develop independently. However, the classified nature of government knowledge about the phenomena created barriers to understanding that prevented complete analysis of the activity's purposes and implications. The mystery that had begun with two brothers in a 1925 photograph had revealed evidence of global systematic research activities that challenged fundamental assumptions about human autonomy and privacy, while raising questions about the purposes and implications of research programs that operated beyond normal civilian or academic awareness and which appeared to require international coordination for management and security. Michael's investigation had demonstrated that genealogical research could reveal evidence of systematic activities that operated across national and cultural boundaries while remaining subject to coordinated government classification and restriction from normal civilian investigation. The work had highlighted the complex relationships between academic research, individual privacy, and international security considerations in areas where systematic activities transcended normal jurisdictional and institutional boundaries. The investigation continued through the distributed international network of researchers who maintained security protocols designed to protect their work from government suppression, while documenting systematic activities that affected families worldwide. The research demonstrated that some phenomena required international cooperation and coordination to understand fully, while also revealing that government responses to such phenomena often transcended national boundaries and required global coordination for effective management and security. Michael's situation took an unexpected turn when he received an encrypted communication from someone identifying themselves only as Source 7. The message contained detailed information about the historical origins of the systematic family monitoring program and provided context that transformed his understanding of what he had been investigating. According to Source 7, the phenomena documented in family photographs worldwide were connected to a research program that had been initiated in the early 1800s by a coalition of scientists and government officials who had discovered evidence of naturally occurring human genetic variations with extraordinary characteristics. The source claimed that individuals like Thomas Blackwood represented a subset of human population that possessed biological traits, including extreme longevity, enhanced cognitive abilities, and resistance to aging and disease. These individuals had been systematically identified and recruited for research purposes, with their cooperation secured through various means including financial incentives, family protection, and promises of scientific advancement. According to Source 7's account, the research program had evolved over 2 centuries from initial scientific curiosity about human genetic variation into a comprehensive effort to understand and potentially replicate the biological mechanisms underlying these extraordinary characteristics. The systematic family monitoring had been designed to track genetic inheritance patterns and identify potential carriers of the relevant traits within normal human populations. The information provided by Source 7 suggested that Thomas Blackwood had been a willing participant in the research program rather than an unwitting subject of covert surveillance. His apparent survival across multiple generations had been facilitated by the research program's advanced understanding of biological mechanisms that could extend human lifespan far beyond normal limitations. However, Source 7 also revealed disturbing information about the program's evolution during the 20th century. What had begun as scientific research into natural human variation had gradually transformed into efforts to artificially replicate the extraordinary characteristics through genetic manipulation and experimental treatments applied to normal human subjects without their knowledge or consent. The systematic family monitoring had served dual purposes: identifying individuals who possessed natural variations of interest to the research program and tracking the effects of experimental interventions applied to family lines that had been selected for covert biological manipulation. The positive health outcomes Michael had documented in visited families might represent the results of experimental treatments rather than natural genetic advantages. Source 7's revelations suggested that thousands of American families had been subjected to covert biological experimentation over several decades, with the research program using the systematic monitoring network to track the long-term effects of various interventions while maintaining plausible deniability about their activities through careful management of family awareness and memory. The international scope of the phenomena reflected the research program's expansion beyond American borders, as the program sought to identify genetic variations and test experimental interventions across diverse human populations worldwide. The coordinated government responses Michael had encountered represented efforts to protect a research program that had evolved beyond its original scientific objectives into systematic experimentation on human subjects. Michael realized that his investigation had uncovered evidence of what amounted to the longest-running human experimentation program in history, operating across multiple countries and generations while maintaining secrecy through sophisticated manipulation of family awareness and government classification of related information. The implications were staggering and deeply disturbing. Source 7 provided additional information about the current status of the research program, revealing that it had achieved significant breakthroughs in understanding the biological mechanisms underlying extreme longevity and enhanced human capabilities. However, these advances had been classified at the highest levels of government security and were being developed for applications that remained unknown to normal scientific and medical communities. The source also warned that Michael's investigation had attracted attention not only from government security agencies, but also from elements within the research program itself who were concerned about potential exposure of their activities. The systematic nature of Michael's documentation and his collaboration with international researchers had created risks that exceeded normal government protocols for managing civilian investigation of classified phenomena. According to Source 7, individuals who had approached Michael claiming to represent government agencies might actually have been representatives of the research program itself, working to assess the threat posed by his investigation and to determine whether more aggressive intervention might be necessary to protect program security. The revelation that apparent government representatives might actually have been program operatives added new dimensions of uncertainty and danger to Michael's situation. His cooperation with what he had believed were legitimate federal authorities might have provided the research program with detailed information about his investigation and his collaborative network of researchers. Michael faced the realization that his academic investigation had not only uncovered evidence of systematic human experimentation, but had also potentially compromised the security of researchers worldwide who had been collaborating with his investigation. The distributed international network he had helped establish might have been infiltrated or monitored by the very entities they were attempting to study. The information provided by Source 7 could not be independently verified, but the level of detail and the accuracy of verifiable elements suggested genuine insider knowledge of the research program's operations and history. However, the source's motivations for revealing this information remained unclear, and the possibility existed that the revelations were themselves part of a disinformation campaign designed to misdirect or discredit legitimate investigation. Michael decided to share Source 7's information with his most trusted collaborators, while implementing additional security protocols designed to protect the research network from infiltration or monitoring by program operatives. The challenge of continuing investigation while protecting researchers from potential retaliation required resources and expertise that exceeded normal academic capabilities. Dr. Chen reported receiving similar communications from anonymous sources, providing information about the psychological manipulation techniques used by the research program to manage family awareness and memory of experimental interventions. The consistency of information across multiple sources suggested coordinated efforts by insiders to reveal program activities to civilian researchers. However, the research network also began receiving contradictory information from sources claiming to expose different aspects of the program's operations. Some communications suggested that the program represented legitimate medical research with humanitarian objectives, while others described systematic human rights violations conducted under the cover of scientific inquiry. The conflicting information created uncertainty about the true nature and objectives of the research program, while also raising questions about the motivations and reliability of the various sources providing information to civilian researchers. The possibility that some communications represented disinformation campaigns designed to confuse or discredit legitimate investigation could not be eliminated. Michael realized that his investigation had entered a realm where distinguishing between legitimate whistleblowing and deliberate disinformation required expertise in intelligence analysis that exceeded normal academic training. The complexity of the situation demanded collaboration with specialists in security analysis and information verification who could evaluate the reliability of anonymous sources. The photographic evidence that had initiated Michael's investigation remained the most reliable documentation of the systematic activities he had uncovered. The images provided visual proof of organized monitoring that could not be explained away through disinformation or alternative interpretations, regardless of the conflicting accounts provided by anonymous sources. Thomas Blackwood's documented appearances across multiple generations served as concrete evidence of systematic activities that exceeded normal human capabilities and suggested organized research or monitoring programs operating within American society. The photographs could not be dismissed as coincidence or misinterpretation, regardless of disagreements about the program's true nature and objectives. Michael's expanded investigation had revealed that genealogical research could uncover evidence of systematic activities that operated at the intersection of legitimate scientific inquiry and potential human rights violations. The work had demonstrated the complex challenges involved in investigating phenomena that existed within classified government programs, while raising fundamental questions about the balance between scientific advancement and individual rights. The collaborative international research network had documented systematic activities affecting families worldwide, while also revealing the sophisticated methods used by research programs to maintain secrecy and manage civilian awareness of their operations. The work had contributed to understanding the complex relationships between scientific research, government classification, and individual autonomy in areas where systematic activities transcended normal institutional boundaries. However, the investigation had also demonstrated the limitations of academic research when confronting organized activities with substantial resources for maintaining secrecy and eliminating threats to their security. The challenge of protecting researchers while continuing investigation required capabilities that exceeded normal academic institutions and demanded innovative approaches to collaboration and security. The mystery that had begun with two brothers in a 1925 photograph had evolved into evidence of systematic research activities that challenged fundamental assumptions about scientific ethics and government accountability, while raising questions about the extent to which human development might be subject to covert manipulation by research programs operating beyond normal oversight and accountability. Michael's work had provided crucial documentation of these activities, while also revealing the sophisticated methods used to maintain secrecy and manage potential exposure. The investigation had highlighted the complex ethical and practical challenges involved in balancing scientific advancement with individual rights and democratic oversight of research activities that possessed implications for human welfare and autonomy. The photographic evidence would remain as permanent documentation of systematic activities that had operated within human society for over a century, while challenging assumptions about family autonomy and scientific ethics. The images had served as windows into organized research that raised fundamental questions about the relationship between scientific inquiry and individual rights in democratic societies. The investigation continued through secure networks of researchers who maintained protocols designed to protect their safety while documenting activities that demanded public awareness and democratic accountability. The work demonstrated that some phenomena required citizen investigation and documentation when normal governmental and institutional oversight mechanisms proved inadequate for ensuring accountability and protecting individual rights. Thomas Blackwood's story had become a symbol of the complex relationships between scientific advancement, individual autonomy, and democratic accountability in areas where research activities operated beyond normal oversight while possessing implications that affected human welfare and development across multiple generations and international boundaries. The evidence Michael had assembled would serve as a foundation for ongoing investigation and advocacy efforts designed to ensure appropriate oversight and accountability for research activities that affected human welfare while operating beyond normal democratic institutions and processes. The work had demonstrated that citizen research and documentation could play crucial roles in maintaining democratic accountability when normal institutional mechanisms proved inadequate for protecting individual rights and ensuring ethical conduct in scientific research. However, Michael's investigation had also revealed the personal costs and risks associated with civilian efforts to document and expose systematic activities that possessed substantial resources for maintaining secrecy and eliminating threats to their security. The challenge of balancing public interest in accountability with personal safety and professional security remained a central consideration in ongoing efforts to document and expose systematic activities that operated beyond normal democratic oversight. The collaborative network of researchers continued their work while implementing enhanced security protocols and developing resources for protecting individuals who contributed to documentation efforts. The investigation had demonstrated that some challenges to democratic accountability required sustained collaborative efforts that transcended normal institutional boundaries while maintaining commitment to both scientific rigor and ethical responsibility. The mystery of Thomas Blackwood's apparent survival across multiple generations had provided evidence of systematic activities that demanded democratic accountability while revealing the complex challenges involved in investigating and exposing organized activities that possess sophisticated capabilities for maintaining secrecy and protecting their operations from civilian oversight and accountability efforts. The investigation reached a crucial turning point when Michael received confirmation that Source 7's warnings about infiltration of the research network had been accurate. Dr. Whitfield at the Family History Library reported that her genealogical archives had been accessed by unauthorized individuals who had removed or altered records related to families that had experienced mysterious visitors across multiple generations. Professor Rodriguez discovered that his research files at the University of New Mexico had been systematically corrupted, with digital records containing subtle alterations that changed dates, names, and other crucial details needed to document patterns of systematic family monitoring. The sophisticated nature of the alterations suggested access to advanced technical capabilities and detailed knowledge of the research being conducted. Dr. Chen found that her psychological analysis materials had been replaced with modified versions that supported alternative interpretations of the memory manipulation patterns she had documented. The changes were subtle enough to avoid immediate detection, but substantial enough to undermine the scientific validity of her findings about systematic psychological influence techniques. The coordinated nature of these security breaches confirmed that the research network had been infiltrated by operatives with sophisticated technical capabilities and detailed knowledge of each researcher's specific contributions to the investigation. The program Michael had been investigating possessed resources and expertise that far exceeded what civilian researchers could deploy for protecting their work. However, the security breaches also revealed that the program considered the research network's activities to pose genuine threats to their operations. The systematic effort to corrupt or remove evidence suggested that civilian documentation efforts had succeeded in uncovering information that the program could not allow to remain in public or academic hands. Michael realized that the infiltration and evidence manipulation represented confirmation of the program's existence and significance, even as these activities undermined the research network's ability to document and expose systematic family monitoring and experimentation. The program's response validated the importance of the investigation while also demonstrating the sophisticated methods available for suppressing civilian oversight efforts. The research network implemented additional security protocols and began creating multiple redundant archives distributed across numerous secure locations to prevent complete suppression of their documentation. However, the technical sophistication demonstrated by the program's security operations suggested that even enhanced protection measures might be insufficient to prevent future infiltration and evidence manipulation. Source 7 provided updated information about the program's current activities, revealing that the systematic family monitoring had evolved into more intensive intervention phases, targeting specific genetic lineages that had been identified through decades of observation and data collection. Families that had shown positive responses to earlier experimental interventions were being selected for more comprehensive biological modification programs. According to Source 7's account, the program had achieved breakthroughs in genetic modification techniques that could be applied to entire family lines without individual awareness or consent. These interventions were designed to enhance human capabilities while also creating biological dependencies that would ensure long-term cooperation with program objectives and activities. The systematic enhancement programs represented the culmination of 2 centuries of research into human genetic variation and experimental intervention. The program had apparently developed the capability to create enhanced human populations that would serve their research objectives while remaining integrated within normal human society and family structures. However, Source 7 also revealed that the program faced internal conflicts about the ethics and long-term implications of systematic human enhancement without consent. Some elements within the program were concerned about the potential consequences of creating enhanced human populations that might eventually pose threats to program control and security. The internal conflicts had created opportunities for information leakage that allowed sources like Seven to provide intelligence about program activities to civilian researchers. However, these same conflicts also created risks that program security measures might escalate to more aggressive levels if internal opposition continued to threaten operational security. Michael understood that his investigation had uncovered evidence of systematic human enhancement programs that represented either the greatest advancement in human biological development or the most comprehensive violation of human rights in recorded history. The ethical implications were staggering and demanded response that exceeded academic documentation and analysis. The research network began developing strategies for public disclosure of their findings while protecting researchers and sources from retaliation by program operatives. The challenge of exposing systematic human experimentation and enhancement while maintaining personal and professional security required resources and expertise that challenged traditional approaches to whistleblowing and public advocacy. Dr. Park's genetic analysis had revealed that families targeted by the program often possessed genetic characteristics that made them ideal candidates for enhancement procedures that could create individuals with capabilities exceeding normal human limitations. The systematic selection and modification of specific genetic lineages suggested program objectives that extended far beyond scientific research into areas of human evolution and biological development. The enhanced individuals created through program interventions might possess capabilities that could revolutionize human civilization, while also creating new forms of inequality and social stratification based on genetic modifications rather than natural inheritance. The long-term implications challenged fundamental assumptions about human equality and democratic participation in technological development. Michael's investigation had revealed evidence of systematic activities that posed profound challenges to human autonomy, democratic governance, and social equality, while also potentially offering unprecedented opportunities for human advancement and biological enhancement. The ethical complexities demanded public discussion and democratic oversight that the program's secrecy had prevented for over 2 centuries. The photographic evidence documenting Thomas Blackwood's appearances across multiple generations had provided crucial documentation of systematic activities that operated beyond normal democratic institutions while possessing implications that affected human welfare and development on unprecedented scales. The images had served as windows into organized enhancement programs that challenged fundamental assumptions about human nature and social organization. However, the investigation had also revealed the personal costs and risks associated with civilian efforts to expose systematic activities that possessed substantial resources for protecting their security and eliminating threats to their operations. The challenge of maintaining democratic accountability while protecting individual safety remained a central concern for ongoing oversight and advocacy efforts. The collaborative international research network had documented systematic enhancement activities affecting human populations worldwide, while also demonstrating the sophisticated methods used by such programs to maintain secrecy and prevent civilian oversight. The work had contributed to understanding the complex challenges involved in ensuring democratic accountability for scientific and technological developments with profound implications for human civilization. The mystery of the 2 brothers from 1925 had evolved into evidence of the most significant challenge to human autonomy and democratic governance in recorded history. The systematic enhancement programs Michael had documented represented either humanity's greatest opportunity for biological and social advancement or its greatest threat to individual rights and democratic self-determination. The investigation continued through secure networks of researchers and advocates who maintained protocols designed to protect their safety while working toward public disclosure and democratic oversight of enhancement programs that had operated beyond normal accountability for over 2 centuries. The work demonstrated that some challenges to democratic governance required sustained civilian investigation and advocacy, when normal institutional mechanisms proved inadequate for ensuring accountability and protecting fundamental human rights. Thomas Blackwood's story had become a symbol of the complex relationships between scientific advancement, individual autonomy, and democratic accountability in an era when technological capabilities increasingly exceeded the capacity of traditional democratic institutions to provide effective oversight and ensure ethical development and application of human enhancement technologies. The evidence Michael had assembled would continue to serve as a foundation for ongoing efforts to establish democratic oversight and ethical frameworks for human enhancement research while protecting the rights and welfare of individuals who might be affected by such programs. The work had demonstrated that civilian documentation and advocacy efforts could play crucial roles in maintaining democratic accountability even when confronting systematic activities with substantial resources for maintaining secrecy and avoiding oversight. The photographs of Thomas Blackwood across multiple generations would remain as permanent evidence of systematic human enhancement activities, while also serving as symbols of the ongoing struggle to maintain democratic accountability and individual rights in an era of unprecedented biological and technological capabilities. The images had documented not only systematic enhancement programs, but also the human cost and ethical challenges involved in balancing scientific advancement with democratic values and individual autonomy. The investigation had revealed that the future of human civilization might depend on the ability of democratic institutions and civilian oversight efforts to establish effective accountability and ethical frameworks for enhancement technologies before such programs could create irreversible changes to human biology and social organization that might undermine the fundamental principles of human equality and democratic governance.